Did you know the breakfast most people think is the safest after 65 may be the one doing the most metabolic damage before 9 a.m.? I'm talking about the kind of breakfast that looks light, quick, and even healthy on the surface. But inside the body, it can trigger a sharp insulin surge, push blood sugar up fast, and pull your body out of one of its most valuable overnight states of repair. And after 65, that matters far more than most people realize. Because this is not just about weight gain. It is not just about diabetes, and it is definitely not just about calories. It is about whether your first meal of the day helps your body stay steady, or whether it immediately shoves your metabolism into a cycle of sugar spikes, cravings, fatigue, inflammation, and poor repair. I'm Dr. Leana, and today I want to show you what the worst breakfast after 65 really is, why it creates problems that many older adults never connect back to breakfast, and what to eat instead if you want better energy, better blood sugar control, and healthier aging. And the most surprising part is this: the worst breakfast is often not bacon and eggs. It is the breakfast marketed as convenient, light, low-fat, and heart-friendly. That is where the real trap begins. Because when most people hear the word insulin, they assume it is something only diabetics need to worry about. But insulin affects everyone. It is one of the body's main storage and signaling hormones. Its job is to help move glucose, sugar from your food, out of the bloodstream and into cells. That is normal. That is necessary. Insulin is not the enemy. But here is what changes after 65. As we age, many of us become less metabolically flexible. That means the body is often not as efficient at switching between burning and storing fuel. Muscle mass tends to decline. Physical activity may decrease. Sleep often becomes lighter or more fragmented. Stress hormones may stay elevated, and over time, cells can become less responsive to insulin. So now the body needs more insulin to handle the same meal. That is when a breakfast that once seemed harmless starts causing a very different internal reaction. A bowl of sugary cereal, a muffin and orange juice, white toast with jam, instant flavored oatmeal, a low-fat fruit yogurt packed with added sugar, a breakfast bar, and a banana. These foods may look small. They may look modest. They may even look better than a greasy diner breakfast. But metabolically, they can act like a rapid sugar delivery system. And this is where it gets more important after 65. When a breakfast is built mostly from refined carbohydrates and sugar, with very little protein and very little fiber, it gets digested quickly. That means glucose enters the bloodstream fast, blood sugar rises fast, insulin rises fast, and the body shifts rapidly from the quiet overnight fasting state into a fed, storage-oriented state. That overnight state matters because while you sleep and go hours without eating, your insulin levels are generally lower than they are after meals. In that lower insulin period, the body is not just resting. It is also doing maintenance. It is cleaning up damaged proteins, recycling worn-out cellular parts, managing energy stress, supporting what scientists often call cellular housekeeping. You may have heard the word autophagy. That simply means a built-in cleanup and recycling process. Think of it like the body's internal repair crew going through the house, finding damaged material, breaking it down, and reusing what still has value. Now let me be careful here, because this is where health content often becomes misleading. I am not saying one bite of toast completely shuts off all repair in your body, and I am not saying you must avoid breakfast to be healthy, but I am saying this: if you break your overnight fast with a highly processed, sugary, low-protein meal, you are moving your body quickly out of that lower insulin maintenance state and into a state that favors glucose handling, storage, and repeated insulin signaling. And if you do that every morning, year after year, especially while already dealing with age-related insulin resistance, it can become a real problem. But that is only part of the story, because the real damage is not just the spike, it is the crash that often follows. Have you ever eaten breakfast and then felt hungry again by 10 a.m.? A little shaky, a little sleepy, a little foggy, craving something sweet, crunchy, or caffeinated? That is often not a willpower problem. That is a blood sugar stability problem. When blood sugar rises quickly, insulin often rises to bring it back down. And in some people, especially those with insulin resistance or poor metabolic control, that swing can leave them feeling drained and hungry soon after eating. So what happens next? Another snack, another sweet coffee, another piece of toast, another granola bar, another insulin rise. Now the whole day becomes a chain reaction. And this is why so many adults over 65 say things like, "I don't understand it. I eat small meals all day, but I'm always tired, always hungry, and the weight around my middle won't move." Because the issue is not always how much they are eating. Sometimes it is how their food is shaping their hormones. And here is what most people never get told. The worst breakfast after 65 is usually one with these four features. It is fast digesting, it is low in fiber, it is low in protein, and it is easy to overeat without feeling satisfied. That combination is incredibly common in modern breakfast foods. Take sweet cereal, for example. It often has refined grains, added sugar, and very little protein. Even when it is fortified, that does not change the fact that it can move through the body quickly and leave you hungry soon after. Or toast and jam. It feels light. It feels traditional. But white bread plus sugar spread is basically a rapid carbohydrate load with almost no breaks. Or fruit juice. People think it's natural. But once the fiber is removed, the sugar can hit the bloodstream much faster than whole fruit. Or flavored yogurt. It sounds healthy because yogurt has protein. But many flavored versions contain so much added sugar that they become more like dessert with a little protein mixed in. And then there is the low-fat breakfast trap. For decades, many people were taught to fear fat so much that they replaced it with starch and sugar. But when you remove fat from food, manufacturers often add sweetness, thickeners, or refined starches to improve taste and texture. The result may be lower in fat, but not necessarily healthier for blood sugar or insulin. And this matters deeply after 65, because your body now has less room for metabolic mistakes. Muscle becomes especially important here. Muscle is one of the major tissues that helps clear glucose from the bloodstream, but aging often brings sarcopenia, which is the gradual loss of muscle mass and strength. That means many older adults have less of the very tissue that helps them handle carbohydrates well. So when breakfast is mostly sugar and starch, and there is not enough protein to support muscle, you are creating two problems at once. You are raising the demand for insulin, and you are underfeeding one of the tissues that helps protect you from high blood sugar in the first place. This is why the better breakfast after 65 is not one that simply has fewer calories. It is one that sends a different signal to the body, a steadier signal, a more protective signal. A breakfast with enough protein helps slow digestion, improve fullness, and support muscle maintenance. A breakfast with fiber slows the absorption of glucose and feeds beneficial gut bacteria, which may also support metabolic health. Healthy fats can add staying power and reduce how fast the meal moves through you. Now suddenly the body is not in a metabolic panic. Blood sugar rises more slowly. Insulin response is more controlled. Hunger is delayed. Energy is steadier, and the brain gets the message that fuel is arriving in an organized way, not in a flood. So what should breakfast actually look like? Let's make this practical. One of the best options is eggs with vegetables, maybe with avocado or plain yogurt on the side. Why? Because now you have protein, micronutrients, volume, and slower digestion. Another good option is plain Greek yogurt with berries, chia seeds, walnuts, or ground flaxseed. That gives you protein, fiber, and a much gentler carbohydrate load than sweetened yogurt with granola clusters. Old-fashioned or steel-cut oats can work very well too, but this is important, not the sugary instant packets. Add nuts, seeds, cinnamon, and maybe some plain yogurt or a boiled egg on the side so the meal is not just starch. Cottage cheese with berries and nuts is another strong option, and one of the smartest upgrades of all is the savory breakfast. Because the more breakfast tastes like dessert, the more likely it is to behave like dessert inside your body. That one shift alone can change a lot. But what happens next matters most. Some people over 65 are not eating a bad breakfast. They are eating too early for no good reason. Now again, I want to be careful here. I am not telling everyone to skip breakfast. That would be irresponsible. Some older adults truly do better with an early morning meal, especially if they take medications, are physically active in the morning, are underweight, have a history of low blood sugar, or simply feel and function better when they eat earlier. But for others, especially those with overweight, prediabetes, insulin resistance, or constant morning snacking habits, The better strategy may not be a bigger breakfast, it may be a later one, sometimes extending the overnight fasting window a little longer, not in an extreme way, just in a sensible way, may help reduce constant insulin exposure and improve appetite regulation. But quality still matters. A delayed sugary breakfast is still a sugary breakfast, and a longer fast does not give processed food a free pass. That is the mistake many people make. They focus on timing and ignore composition. But breakfast quality is often the bigger issue. So if you are wondering whether your breakfast is working against you, here are the warning signs. You feel sleepy after eating. You get hungry again within 2 hours. You crave sugar mid-morning. You rely on coffee and snacks to get through the first half of the day. Your fasting glucose keeps creeping up. Your waistline is expanding even though you do not think you eat that much. Or you feel like your energy never really stabilizes. Those are all clues that your first meal may be setting the wrong tone. And here is the deeper truth behind today's message. After 65, your breakfast should not just fill your stomach. It should protect your metabolism. It should help preserve muscle. It should reduce unnecessary blood sugar swings. It should work with your biology, not against it. And the worst breakfast does the opposite. It gives you fast fuel but no control, calories but no stability, sweetness but no staying power. And in the long run, that may help drive the exact problems so many adults fear most: fatigue, belly fat, prediabetes, inflammation, and loss of independence. Because once blood sugar control gets worse, it rarely stays isolated. High insulin can feed fat storage. Excess abdominal fat can increase inflammatory signaling. Inflammation can worsen insulin resistance. Poor metabolic health can affect energy, heart health, brain health, and even how quickly you recover from illness or stress. That is why this conversation is not small. Breakfast is not everything, but breakfast is often where the pattern begins. So let me leave you with the simplest way to think about it. If your breakfast is mostly sugar, refined flour, or sweetened processed food, and it lacks protein and fiber, it is probably not helping you age well. If it tastes like a treat, digests fast, and leaves you hungry again soon, it is likely pushing insulin harder than it needs to. And if you want a breakfast that supports healthier aging, think less like a food commercial and more like metabolism. Ask yourself, where is the protein? Where is the fiber? How quickly will this hit my bloodstream? Will this keep me steady, or will it send me chasing another snack? That is the real test. So the worst breakfast after 65 is not simply carbs. It is the refined, sugary, low-protein, low-fiber breakfast that spikes blood sugar fast, drives a larger insulin response, and pulls your body out of that calm overnight state with the least nutritional payoff. Replace that kind of breakfast, and you may notice something powerful. Not overnight magic, but better stability, better fullness, better mornings, better energy, and over time, a body that is under less metabolic strain. I'm Dr. Leana, and I'd love to hear from you. What do you usually eat for breakfast? And have you ever noticed that some breakfasts make you hungry and tired just a couple of hours later? Leave your answer in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone over 65 who still thinks juice, toast, and sugary cereal are a harmless way to start the day. Because sometimes the meal that looks the safest is the one causing the most trouble.